If you grew up in the 1970s, get ready, because this is about to transport you straight back to your childhood kitchen. Back when every meal felt like a ritual, the sounds and smells of home filled the air. These kitchen staples were part of life. So, let's take a trip down memory lane and see how many of these 20 iconic kitchen items you remember. Revere Ware. Revere Ware wasn't just cookware. It was a quiet symbol of reliability that sat on stovetops across America. With its sleek stainless steel body and signature copper bottom, it was the kind of pot that felt like it belonged in every family kitchen. The copper base wasn't just for looks. It delivered even, steady heat that made every stew, sauce, and Sunday roast feel a little more special. Lightweight but tough, it could handle everything from a slow simmer to a full boil, and somehow still come out looking polished if you put in the elbow grease. In our house, keeping those pots shiny was a sacred chore. I can still see myself as a kid, standing on a kitchen stool, towel in hand, carefully buffing the copper like I was polishing a trophy. My mom would inspect my work, nodding only if she could see her reflection smiling back. And the sound. Oh, the soft clink of lids, the gentle sizzle as water met hot metal, and that unmistakable aroma of beef stew filling the room on a rainy afternoon. Revere Ware wasn't flashy, but it was dependable, full of stories, and worn in all the right ways, just like the people who used it. Tupperware. Some things didn't just live in the kitchen, they ruled it. And in the 1970s, nothing wore the crown quite like Tupperware. These colorful plastic wonders weren't just about storage, they were a statement. Bright, bold, and unapologetically cheerful, they came in groovy hues like burnt orange, avocado-green, mustard yellow, and harvest gold, perfectly in sync with the appliances of the time. But Tupperware wasn't just about looks, it was practical, durable, and designed to make any pantry feel like a well-oiled machine. From the space-saving modular mates to the perfectly stackable Wonderlier bowls, every item had a purpose. And the cake taker? It was like armor for your birthday masterpiece. Nothing squished that frosting on the ride over. There were even gadgets just for deviled eggs and Jell-O molds shaped like rings, stars, or whatever the party demanded. And let's not forget the Tupperware parties. Half kitchen demo, half gossip session, and 100% 70s charm. The brand wasn't just part of the decor, it was part of the culture. Even today, one click of a vintage lid brings back memories you didn't know were still sealed inside. Corelle Dinnerware. Before kitchens became Instagram-worthy and dishes came in curated sets, there was a quiet hero stacked behind every cupboard door. Corelle. Almost every household had a stack of these impossibly thin, lightweight plates that somehow survived years of family dinners, rushed breakfasts, and the occasional toddler tantrum. Crafted from a glass laminate called vitrelle, Corelle was known for its uncanny ability to take a hit and keep going. You could drop one on the linoleum floor and just hope it bounced, and most of the time, it did. But it wasn't just the toughness that made Corelle iconic, it was the patterns. Butterfly gold, with its warm golden floral ring, fit perfectly in kitchens decked out in harvest gold appliances. Spring blossom green, dotted with delicate little flowers, gave everything a fresh, nature-inspired touch that felt effortlessly retro. In my grandmother's kitchen, the butterfly gold set was sacred. She wouldn't microwave leftovers on anything else. To her, those dishes weren't just practical. They were part of the daily rhythm, quietly witnessing decades of coffee, soup, and second helpings. Corelle didn't just serve food, it served up memories. Pyrex mixing bowls and Bakeware. Ever wonder how a set of mixing bowls ended up being tougher than most of your childhood toys and prettier than half the dishes in the cabinet? Yes, I'm talking about a set of classic Pyrex mixing bowls. These weren't just any bowls, they were thick, glossy, and built like they could survive a tornado, and somehow still look pretty doing it. With cheerful patterns like spring blossom green or butterfly gold, Pyrex brought a little sunshine to even the gloomiest baking days. The stacking sets came in bold colors: sunset orange, avocado-green, golden yellow, and always looked like they belonged on the cover of a 1970s cookbook. In our house, the green one was the banana bread bowl. No one questioned it. No one used it for anything else. My job was to mash the bananas with a fork until my arm hurt, then sneak a taste of the batter when no one was watching. It was a small kitchen, but every holiday felt big, especially with those bowls lined up on the counter, ready for action. Today, whenever I spot one at a flea market, I don't just see a mixing bowl. I see tradition, warmth, and the joyful mess of home baking, flour-covered counters, and all. CorningWare casserole dishes. You didn't need a fancy kitchen to feel proud of your cooking. Sometimes all it took was a sturdy CorningWare dish with a little floral charm and a lot of heart. These dishes were the unsung heroes of the 70s kitchen. Dependable, heat-proof, and practically indestructible. You could pull one straight from the freezer, slide it into a hot oven, and place it directly on the dinner table, all without batting an eye. The most beloved design? Spice of life, with its cheerful lineup of tomatoes, herbs, and mushrooms dancing along the sides. Some folks swore by wildflower, others had an entire cabinet of both. They weren't just useful, they made leftovers look like a home-cooked meal and made casseroles feel like a celebration. In our house, the CorningWare dish had a permanent spot on the Sunday dinner table. My dad insisted that his famous baked ziti only turned out right when made in the magic vegetable dish, his name for the one with the glass lid and that slightly chipped corner we never replaced. Even now, the sight of that design brings it all back. Family, food, and the quiet comfort of something warm bubbling in the oven while laughter filled the kitchen. Do you still own any of these vintage treasures? Let us know in the comment below. Melmac Melamine Dinnerware. If your childhood dinnerware could survive being flung across the yard, dropped from the porch, and still come back for dessert, chances are it was Melmac. Made from melamine resin, this stuff was the superhero of 1970s dishware. It didn't chip, it didn't shatter, and it came in the boldest colors you could imagine. Sunset orange, avocado green, mustard yellow, the holy trinity of 70s style. Melmac was perfect for backyard barbecues, kids' tables, and any meal that didn't require the good dishes. The plates had a smooth, almost silky surface, cool to the touch, and the cups kept drinks cold longer than you'd expect. They stacked neatly, washed easily, and seemed to last forever. It was the kind of dinnerware that wasn't just functional, it was fun. Here's a quirky little fact. In the 1950s and 60s, Melmac was actually advertised as space-age plastic. That's right. Some people believed this was the kind of material astronauts would dine on. And honestly, with the way it held up through spaghetti stains, Kool-Aid spills, and enthusiastic toddlers, it might have been ready for orbit. Melmac wasn't fancy, but it was fearless, and that made it unforgettable. Sears Merry Mushroom Canisters. Do you remember when kitchen decor didn't just coordinate? It had its own quirky personality, and nothing had more charm than those iconic Merry Mushroom canisters from Sears. With their cheerful mushroom caps in warm oranges and cozy browns, framed by sprigs of green leaves, they brought a splash of woodland whimsy to even the most modest countertops. But these weren't just containers, they were a vibe. Round, glossy, and topped with little mushroom hats, they made sugar and flour feel like part of a fairy tale. And Sears didn't stop at canisters. The collection grew into salt and pepper shakers, napkin holders, cookie jars, spoon rests, even matching dish towels if you were truly committed to the theme. It was kitchen decor turned lifestyle, and some households leaned in hard. I still remember visiting my aunt's house, where Mary Mushrooms ruled the kitchen with a soft, ceramic grin. She had the matching cookie jar that always had store-bought vanilla wafers inside, even though she insisted they were homemade. Looking back, those mushrooms weren't just cute. They were comforting, nostalgic, and oddly timeless. Seeing one now instantly takes me back to simpler times, when a little mushroom smile was all it took to brighten the room. Lenox Temper-Ware. Not every item in a 1970s kitchen is bright and eye-catching. Some things have a subtle, refined appeal, and Lenox Temper-Ware is just that kind of quiet star. Known for their delicate fine china, Lenox surprised everyone when they introduced this rugged yet refined line. Temper-Ware didn't need babysitting. It went from freezer to oven to dishwasher without so much as a chip, making it a dream for busy families who wanted something that looked good and worked hard. The designs felt straight from a forest walk, subtle florals, soft earth tones, and speckled glazes that looked hand-spun. Patterns like Fancy Free and Autumn captured the easygoing spirit of the decade. They blended perfectly with the era's olive green countertops and goldenrod dish towels, adding just the right touch of grown-up style. At my cousin's wedding shower, I remember someone gifting her a full set of Temper-Ware. She unwrapped each plate like it was fine crystal. My uncle leaned over and said, "It's beautiful, and you can drop it." That mix of elegance and practicality, that's what made Temper-Ware special. It was stylish without being fussy, and tough enough to survive 3 generations of dish duty. Fiesta Dinnerware. Some dinnerware didn't just serve meals, it served mood. Fiesta Ironstone, with its bold personality and fearless color palette, was the perfect match for the free-spirited vibe of the early 1970s. Unlike the prim, delicate china that stayed hidden behind glass cabinets, Fiesta was made to be seen, used, and mixed with wild abandon. The colors, mango red, turf green, antique gold, felt like they came straight out of a sunlit kitchen painted in harvest gold and filled with macrame plant hangers. Each piece had a solid, satisfying weight and a glossy finish that made every meal feel like a mini celebration. There were no rules, no matching sets required. In fact, the charm was in the chaos. Putting a green salad plate on a red charger, that wasn't clashing, that was creativity. Though the Ironstone line was discontinued just a few years after its reintroduction, it didn't disappear. Instead, it quietly became a collector's gem, passed through flea markets and vintage shops, piece by piece. Its lasting appeal wasn't in perfection, but in how effortlessly it captured the joy and freedom of a decade that didn't take itself too seriously. George Briard Glassware. Ever sip ginger ale out of a glass so fancy you felt like you needed a tuxedo, or at least permission to touch it, especially if it had the name George Briard on the bottom? In a decade known for shag carpets and bold kitchen colors, his pieces stood out for an entirely different reason: quiet glamour. The glasses were sturdy yet refined, often adorned with gold trim, mid-century patterns, or clean geometric shapes that caught the light just right. They weren't everyday drinkware. These were the glasses that only came out of the cabinet when company was coming, or if your parents were throwing one of those grown-up parties where kids had to stay in the other room. The highball glasses looked like something out of a Bond movie, while the tumblers turned plain ginger ale into something borderline elegant. What makes Briard Glassware even more intriguing is that many people didn't even know they owned it. His signature was sometimes etched, sometimes printed in gold, and often missed. Today, collectors hunt them down in thrift stores and estate sales, thrilled to find a set hiding in plain sight. It's proof that sometimes the most stylish treasures were sitting quietly on your parents' bar cart all along. If this video brings back memories to you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support is a great motivation for us. GE Avocado-Green and Harvest Gold appliances. There was a time when kitchens felt like the heart of the home, not just because of what was cooking, but because of how they looked. In the 1970s, that warmth often came wrapped in two unforgettable hues: GE Avocado-Green and Harvest Gold. GE appliances in those bold, earthy colors weren't just common, they were practically a rite of passage. If your family had the full matching set, a fridge, stove, and dishwasher, all in glorious avocado, you weren't just cooking dinner, you were living modern. The fridge was massive, with thick handles and a reassuring clunk every time the door closed. The stovetop came with jet black grates and heat dials that turned like you were unlocking a vault. And don't get me started on the control buttons. So tough you needed 2 thumbs and a little faith to get anything started. At my aunt's house, her GE oven had a timer that ticked louder than the wall clock. It was always off by a few minutes, but somehow every roast came out perfect. The best part? That appliance set is still sitting in her basement today, fully functional and just as proudly mismatched as ever. Back then, kitchens didn't blend in. They stood out. And honestly, we loved them for it. Farberware electric percolator. The Farberware electric percolator didn't just make your morning, it was your morning. Indeed, it was one of those dependable kitchen companions that started its day before the rest of the house did. With a sleek stainless steel body, chrome finish, and a small glass dome perched proudly on top, it looked more like a spaceship than a coffee pot. But once that rhythmic bubbling began, you knew coffee was on the way, and so was everyone else. What made it special wasn't just the design, but the performance. It brewed coffee that was bold, hot, and somehow felt stronger than anything from a drip machine. You could actually see the magic happen through the glass knob, watching that rich brew pulse upward with every percolating beat. And the scent? It filled the whole kitchen with a warm, roasted hug that even got Grandpa out of bed early. Interestingly, these percolators were so well built that many are still functioning today, decades later. Sure, leave it plugged in too long and you'd end up with something closer to engine oil, but nobody minded. In the 70s, a strong cup of coffee didn't ask for perfection. It just asked that you be awake enough to drink it. Tupperware plastic pitcher with swirling lid. Not every kitchen memory is tied to a stovetop or a fancy appliance. Sometimes, it's the small, everyday items that stick with you. One of the most unforgettable? That classic Tupperware plastic pitcher with the spinning lid. Usually found in bold 70s shades like burnt orange or avocado green. Ours was a stubborn yellow, always slightly sticky, no matter how many times it got washed. It had a permanent spot in the fridge, filled with whatever sweet drink was cheapest that week. Tang, Kool-Aid, or iced tea with way too much sugar. The pitcher's lid featured a rotating dial meant to control the pour, but it was notoriously unreliable. If it wasn't aligned just right, you'd end up with a splash zone. Still, we trusted it. It poured drinks at birthday parties, held lemonade for lemonade stands, and somehow always had just enough left when someone needed one last sip. Here's something you might not know. That very pitcher design was so popular, it stayed in production for decades and even made it into museum collections as a symbol of mid-century American innovation. It wasn't just a container, it was a quiet icon of practicality and design that earned its place in kitchen history. Betty Crocker Recipe Card Library. Long before recipe apps and saved Instagram posts, home cooks had a treasure chest that sat right on the kitchen counter, the Betty Crocker Recipe Card Library. Housed in a clunky red or beige plastic box, it wasn't flashy, But inside, culinary chaos and creativity, organized in perfectly labeled tabs. Each glossy card showcased a photo that made even the most questionable dishes look like gourmet masterpieces, gelatin molds that sparkled like stained glass, or casseroles topped with suspiciously shiny cheese. There were cards for every occasion: quick weeknight meals, potluck standbys, and ambitious companies-coming dishes. The flavors ranged from classic comfort food to what can only be described as edible experiments, like ham in aspic or tuna suspended in lime jello. Still, they had charm and practicality. Each recipe was short, easy to follow, and often called for ingredients you already had in your pantry. My favorite part? Spinning the card carousel like a game show wheel, hoping to land on something exciting, or at least something that didn't require canned pineapple. Some recipes became family legends, others disappeared after one taste. But flipping through those cards always felt like opening a time capsule, and sometimes dinner was just a lucky draw away. McCormick Spice Rack. There was something oddly magical about spinning a spice rack in the middle of a 70s kitchen. Before built-in drawers or minimalist shelves, the McCormick carousel took center stage, usually perched right beside the stove, proudly on display. It wasn't just storage. It was a little rotating shrine to flavor. The jars sat neatly in place, each one labeled in bold font, with colorful caps that made them feel more exciting than they actually were. It had all the classics: paprika, garlic powder, cinnamon, and then there were the wild cards: celery seed, ground mustard, and the ever-mysterious marjoram. No one really knew what to do with those, but they stayed there, just in case. And the best part? Mom didn't care if the labels were faded or the best buy date was ancient. If it smelled strong enough, it went in the pot. Here's a fun fact. McCormick actually offered refill packs in the 70s that let you reorder individual spices and reuse your glass jars. Eco-friendly, before that was even a thing. So while that spice rack may have looked innocent, it was quietly powering every meatloaf, casserole, and just try it experiment that defined a decade of home cooking. If you found this video interesting, please comment yes. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss what's next. Sears Merry Mushroom Bread Box. Was it really a bread box, or just a cleverly disguised hiding spot for your dad's secret stash of cookies and last Twinkie? The Sears Merry Mushroom Bread Box was exactly that kind of fixture, decorated with cheerful, cartoonish mushrooms in warm oranges and browns. It brought a bit of woodland whimsy to the countertop. But it wasn't just for looks. It was your go-to snack vault. The box itself was ceramic or metal, depending on the version, with a sliding lid that made a very distinct shh sound, basically an alert system for hungry kids. Inside, it held more than just sandwich bread. You might find a few Hostess cupcakes, some stale graham crackers, or a slightly smushed pack of cookies hidden behind the loaf. And if you were lucky, maybe even a secret stash your dad thought no one knew about. Interestingly, the Merry Mushroom line became so wildly popular that Sears expanded it into an entire kitchen collection: canisters, salt and pepper shakers, even wall clocks. So that bread box, it wasn't just storage. It was a tiny time capsule filled with crumbs, memories, and just enough mischief to make snack time feel like an adventure. Black & Decker electric knife. Before YouTube tutorials and precision slicers, there was one buzzing tool that made every holiday kitchen feel just a little more high-tech: the Black & Decker electric knife. It wasn't sleek or silent, but it got the job done with flair. With its chunky handle and dual serrated blades that zipped back and forth like a miniature saw, it brought a bit of drama to the dinner table. Whether you were carving turkey, slicing ham, or tackling a stubborn loaf of French bread, this thing powered through like it had something to prove. What made it even better? It was often Dad's one moment of kitchen glory. He'd step in like a surgeon, steady hand, deep focus, only to accidentally tear through the foil-covered serving tray beneath the roast. We all held our breath when the knife fired up, that distinct hum echoing through the room louder than the conversation. There was always a mix of pride and panic in the air. Electric countertop can opener. Not every piece of 70s kitchen tech was flashy, but for a kid used to cranking a squeaky manual can opener until their wrist gave out, the electric countertop version looked like something straight from the future. Sleek, compact, and chrome-trimmed, it usually sat like a throne next to the blender, ready to impress. All it took was a quick press of the lever, and voila, the can would spin, hum, and release its lid with quiet mechanical grace. No sore hands, no sharp edges, no fishing for lost lids with a spoon. I didn't grow up with one, but I'll never forget the first time I saw it in action at my cousin's house. I stood there transfixed, thinking this must be what it felt like to live in a house that had it all. But as with most kitchen gadgets, perfection was a bit of an illusion. My uncle once tried opening a dented can of stewed tomatoes and wound up jamming the machine, cursing under his breath while he pried it loose with a screwdriver. Still, even with its quirks, that gadget left an impression. Because in the 1970s, any device that made opening a can feel like science fiction, that was nothing short of magic. Oster Ice Crusher. Back when summer heat called for creativity and cold drinks were earned with a little elbow grease, one gadget stood proudly on the kitchen counter, the Oster hand-cranked ice crusher. It sat on the counter like a small, stubborn robot with a clear plastic bin underneath, ready to catch every jagged, frosty shard. You'd load it with bulky freezer cubes, brace yourself, and start cranking like your life depended on it. The handle turned with a satisfying grind, and after enough rotations, and maybe a wrist cramp, you had a pile of perfectly crushed ice ready for action. Whether it was destined for Kool-Aid, homemade lemonade, or an improvised snow cone, that ice somehow made everything feel fancier and colder. In our house, it became a summertime ritual. I always tried to beat my siblings to the machine, just for the chance to crank it and hear that gritty clatter echo through the kitchen. Pancake and donut batter dispenser. Ever wonder how people in the 70s tried to bring diner-style pancakes into their own kitchens without the mess? One of the quirkiest and most beloved inventions of the decade was the pancake batter dispenser. Shaped like a squat aluminum pitcher with a finger trigger underneath, it gave you the illusion of being in total control. No more messy ladles or uneven blobs of batter, just a smooth, steady stream with every squeeze. Of course, reality didn't always match the dream. The first pancake still turned out lopsided. Sometimes the batter clogged up the nozzle, or came out in an awkward glob that looked more like a splat than a circle. But none of that mattered. The sound of that trigger clicking, the sizzle as batter hit the griddle, and the smell of vanilla and butter filling the kitchen. It all felt like magic. We used ours every weekend, and my dad insisted it made restaurant-quality pancakes. Looking back, they were a little wonky. But they were made with love. And here's a fun detail. Some models came with interchangeable tips for making donuts, or even writing letters in batter, because apparently, food art was already trending before Instagram was even a thought. 20 famous beers from the past that no longer exist. Remember a time when beer brands were as unforgettable as their catchy jingles? From local legends to national favorites, some beers made their mark, only to fade into history. What happened to these iconic brews? Today, we're taking a trip down memory lane, revisiting 20 famous beers that no longer exist. Meisterbräu. Known in the 1960s as an affordable, no-nonsense brew, It had a dedicated fan base that appreciated its smooth, easy-drinking flavor. It wasn't fancy, but it delivered exactly what beer drinkers wanted: refreshment without the high price tag. But Meisterbräu's real claim to fame wasn't just its budget-friendly appeal, it was the innovation hidden within. In the early 1970s, the Miller Brewing Company acquired the rights to Meisterbräu's light version, refining the recipe and launching it as Miller Lite. That single move sparked a revolution, introducing the world to the concept of light beer. What started as a humble, overlooked brand became the foundation for an entire category of beer that remains dominant today. Though Meisterbräu itself eventually faded away, its impact on brewing history is undeniable. Every time someone reaches for a light beer, they're drinking a piece of its legacy. It may not be around anymore, but its influence is still felt in every crisp, refreshing sip of the light beers that followed in its footsteps. Old Frothing Slosh. Some beers take themselves seriously. Old Frothing Slosh was not one of them. Dubbed the pale stale ale with the foam on the bottom, this beer was all about humor, turning self-parody into a marketing sensation. Originally created as a joke by Pittsburgh Brewing Company, it was meant to be a playful holiday promotion. But something unexpected happened. People actually loved it. Old Frothing Slosh wasn't just about the beer, it was about the experience. The brand embraced absurdity, from its bizarre advertising to its unconventional mascot. Enter Fatima Yechur, a fictional beauty queen with a larger-than-life personality, who became the face of the brand. With her on the cans and the beer's offbeat reputation, Old Frothing Slosh gained a devoted following. Was the beer itself revolutionary? Not really. It was a standard light ale. But its charm was undeniable. Fans didn't just drink Old Frothing Slosh. They collected the cans, laughed at the ads, and embraced the ridiculousness. Unfortunately, the joke couldn't last forever. Eventually, Old Frothing Slosh disappeared, but its legacy remains one of the greatest examples of how humor and creativity can turn even a parody into a beloved cult classic. Falstaff beer. There was a time when cracking open a cold Falstaff was like reconnecting with an old friend. It wasn't just another beer on the shelf, it was the beer. Its crisp, refreshing lager became a staple for beer lovers, offering a smooth and satisfying taste that was easy to enjoy on any occasion. Named after Shakespeare's infamous character, Sir John Falstaff, the beer embodied the spirit of its namesake: bold, fun, and with just the right touch of rowdiness. Whether it was enjoyed at a ball game, a neighborhood BBQ, or just after a long day's work, a Falstaff was more than just a drink. It was part of the moment. But as time passed, the beer world began to change. New brands emerged, offering a wider variety of brews, and the tastes of beer drinkers evolved. As the market became more competitive and preferences shifted, Falstaff's popularity began to wane. The iconic red and gold label, once seen everywhere, slowly disappeared from the shelves. What's the first beer you ever tried from this list? And what's your memory of it? Jack's Beer. Founded in 1906, Jack's quickly earned a reputation for its smooth, full-flavored taste. Its name came from Jacksonville, Florida, where it was first brewed, before moving its production to New Orleans, where it truly became a part of the city's culture. Jack's wasn't just a beer. It was a fixture in the bars and jazz clubs that lined the streets of New Orleans, fueling both celebrations and quiet moments alike. What made Jack's so special was its affordability and refreshing nature, perfect for a city known for its lively and spirited atmosphere. It became a go-to drink, not just at everyday get-togethers, but also at the heart of the city's vibrant jazz scene. Whether people were gathering for a night out or enjoying a quiet evening in, Jack's was the beer that brought them together. Though the brand ceased production in 1974, Jack's Beer's legacy never faded in New Orleans. The old brewery building remains a landmark, a physical reminder of the beer that was once as much a part of the city as its music and culture. In 2017, the brand was revived, allowing a new generation of beer drinkers to experience a piece of New Orleans history. Schlitz. Founded in 1849, the Milwaukee-based brewery quickly rose to prominence, becoming one of the top-selling beers in America by the mid-20th century. Known for its distinctive taste and catchy slogan, "The beer that made Milwaukee famous," Schlitz became synonymous with American beer culture. It wasn't just a drink, it was a symbol of Midwest pride, enjoyed by generations in bars, homes, and at social gatherings. At its peak, Schlitz was everywhere. It was the beer of choice for millions, with its iconic red and gold label gracing refrigerators across the country. Schlitz made an impact not only through its quality, but also through its marketing, securing its place in American advertising history. It epitomized the spirit of an era when beer was simple, reliable, and beloved by all. But by the 1970s, Schlitz hit a major bump in the road. A controversial recipe change aimed at cutting costs backfired. The new formula was widely criticized for compromising taste and quality. The backlash was swift, and despite efforts to recover, Schlitz never regained its former glory. The brand eventually faded from the scene, and in the years that followed, Schlitz was absorbed by Pabst Brewing Company. Today, Schlitz is still fondly remembered by those who lived through its golden age. Although it may no longer dominate the market, it will always be the beer that made Milwaukee famous, a testament to a bygone era of American brewing. Schaefer Beer. Founded in 1842 in New York, this crisp, easy-drinking lager quickly became a household favorite. It wasn't fancy or complicated. It was smooth, refreshing, and reliable, making it the perfect companion for backyard barbecues, ball games, and late-night conversations. Schaefer didn't just sell beer, it sold moments. Its legendary slogan, "The one beer to have when you're having more than one," said it all. This was a beer made for good times and great company. For years, Schaefer thrived, becoming one of the most recognized names in American brewing. But as the industry changed and competition grew fiercer, Schaefer struggled to keep up. The rise of national brands and the craft beer revolution left little room for the classic lagers of old, and slowly, Schaefer faded from the spotlight. Yet, nostalgia is a powerful force. Many still remember the crisp taste of an ice-cold Schaefer, and in an era where retro brands are making a comeback, could Schaefer find a new generation of fans? If history has shown us anything, it's that great beers never truly disappear. They just wait for the right moment to return. Peel's Beer. What made Peel's Beer stand out wasn't just the taste, it was the personality. Long before beer commercials became entertainment, Peel's was ahead of the game with its iconic animated mascots, Bert and Harry Peel. These cartoon brothers, voiced by none other than Mel Blanc, the legendary voice behind Bugs Bunny, brought humor and charm to television screens, making Peel's one of the most recognizable brands on the East Coast. In an industry where most ads were serious and straightforward, Peel's dared to be different, and people loved it. But Peel's was more than just a clever marketing campaign. The beer itself was crisp, light, and easy to drink, perfect for a time when refreshment and simplicity were key. For years, the combination of great beer and unforgettable advertising made Peel's a household name. However, as the beer industry shifted, Peel's faced tough competition from the rise of national brands. By the 1970s, despite its beloved legacy, Peel's disappeared from the shelves. Ortlieb's Beer. Ortlieb's Beer holds a special place in the heart of Philadelphia's beer history. Founded by German immigrants in the 1800s, the brewery quickly became a cornerstone of the city's vibrant beer scene. Ortlieb's classic lager, was the drink of choice for many Philadelphians, offering a smooth, refreshing taste that made it a local favorite for decades. The brewery was more than just a producer of beer. It was a symbol of the hard-working, community-focused spirit of the city. As Philadelphia grew, so did the competition in the brewing industry. The rise of larger national breweries made it increasingly difficult for smaller regional breweries like Ortlieb's to survive. Despite its strong roots in the community, Ortlieb's struggled to keep up, and in 1981, the brewery shut its doors for good. For those who remembered Ortlieb's, it wasn't just about the beer. It was about tradition, heritage, and the memories shared over a cold glass with friends and family. In 1987, the brand and brewery were revived, bringing a piece of Philadelphia's history back to life. Though it may no longer hold the same prominence as it once did, Ortlieb's remains a beloved part of the city's past, a reminder of the rich brewing legacy that shaped Philadelphia's beer culture. Knickerbocker beer. Named after the iconic character Diedrich Knickerbocker from Washington Irving's History of New York, the beer paid tribute to the city's Dutch heritage and was as New York as the Empire State Building or a hot dog from a street vendor. Brewed by the Jacob Ruppert Brewery, the same company that once owned the New York Yankees, Knickerbocker was intertwined with the city's identity. From the moment it hit the market, Knickerbocker wasn't just about beer, it was about celebrating New York life. Its advertisements depicted the vibrancy of the city, reflecting everything from bustling street corners to summer days in Central Park. For New Yorkers, having a Knickerbocker was more than just sipping a beer. It was about enjoying the essence of the city. However, as the brewing world became more competitive and larger companies began to consolidate, Knickerbocker couldn't keep pace. By the late 1960s, the brand disappeared, overshadowed by bigger national names. Yet, for anyone who remembers the Knickerbocker ad campaigns or the distinct taste, the beer remains a cherished slice of New York history. It's a reminder of a time when the city's heartbeat was a little slower, and every pint told a story. Red, white, and blue beer. What does a truly American beer taste like? For many in the 1970s and 80s, it was red, white, and blue beer. This budget-friendly brew captured the essence of patriotism, wrapped up in a can that proudly displayed the stars and stripes. It wasn't just about the branding. Red, white, and blue was a beer made for enjoying without fuss. Affordable and easy to drink, it was the kind of beer you'd grab for a casual cookout or a laid-back weekend gathering. In a time when the nation was feeling especially proud of its identity, red, white, and blue became a symbol of American pride. The beer's branding connected directly with its audience, evoking a sense of celebration with every sip. Whether you were tailgating before a game or relaxing at home, cracking open a red, white, and blue was a small but powerful act of national pride. But as the beer market grew more crowded, red, white, and blue couldn't maintain its place. Bigger, flashier brands took over, and the iconic brew faded from the scene. Valentine beer. Valentine beer may not be a household name today, but for many on the East Coast, particularly in the early to mid-20th century, it was a go-to brew. Produced in Newark, New Jersey, Valentine stood out for its clean, crisp flavor that made it a refreshing choice for beer drinkers of all kinds. The beer quickly earned a reputation for quality, with its brewing process and ingredients drawing loyal fans who appreciated a well-crafted drink. The brand's identity was strong, and its distinctive V logo became a symbol of premium beer in a time when quality was the main focus. Valentine wasn't about fancy gimmicks or trends. It was about offering a reliable, satisfying beer experience that people could count on. Whether enjoyed on a summer day or paired with a hearty meal, Valentine was the drink that made you feel like you were getting something special. However, as the beer industry shifted in the 1960s and 70s, Valentine, like many regional brands, faced fierce competition from the rapid consolidation of breweries. larger national brands began to dominate the market, and Ballantine's popularity dwindled. Ballantine India Pale Ale. Long before the craft beer movement made IPAs a household favorite, Ballantine India Pale Ale was ahead of its time. Brewed in the 19th century, this beer stood out for its bold, hoppy flavor and unique aging process. While most American beers of the era leaned toward mild, easy-drinking lagers, Ballantine embraced the rich, complex qualities of a true India Pale Ale. Aged in oak barrels, it developed deep, layered flavors that set it apart from the competition. But despite its early success, Ballantine couldn't compete with the rising popularity of lighter beers. As American tastes shifted toward crisp pilsners and mass-produced lagers, the demand for heavy, hop-forward brews dwindled. Ballantine IPA gradually disappeared, becoming a forgotten relic of American brewing history. Yet, for those lucky enough to have tasted it, Ballantine wasn't just a beer, it was an experience. It represented a time when brewers weren't afraid to experiment, creating something truly special. Today, with the resurgence of craft brewing and the love for historical beer styles, one can only wonder what it might have been like to sip on an original Ballantine IPA. Perhaps one day, a modern brewer will revive its legacy. Wiedemann Beer. For many in the Midwest, especially in Kentucky and Ohio, Wiedemann beer wasn't just a drink, it was a part of everyday life. Founded in 1870, Wiedemann quickly became a beloved local brew, known for its smooth, easy-drinking taste that made it perfect for any occasion. Whether it was enjoyed at a family gathering, a tailgate, or a neighborhood bar, Wiedemann was a reliable companion, always there when you needed it. What set Wiedemann apart wasn't just the beer itself, it was its deep connection to the community. The brand's ads celebrated local pride, emphasizing the beer's roots in the heart of the Midwest. It wasn't just about selling a product, it was about celebrating the spirit of small-town America. To drink Wiedemann was to drink something that represented your hometown, your neighbors, and your way of life. But as national beer brands began to dominate the market, Wiedemann faced tough competition. Despite its loyal following, it couldn't keep up and ultimately shut down in the late 1980s. Still, for those who remember it, Wiedemann represents an era when local beers were a symbol of community pride. The brand has since been revived by the GEO, Wiedemann Brewing Company, giving a new generation the chance to experience a taste of history. For those who drank it back in the day, Wiedemann is more than just a beer, it's a piece of their past. Blatz Beer. Founded in the 1850s, it was one of America's first large-scale breweries, quickly rising from a local favorite to a national powerhouse. In an era when American beer culture was taking shape, Blatz stood tall, known for its quality and consistency. During its peak, Blatz wasn't just a drink, it was a name that carried weight. The brewery helped establish Milwaukee as a brewing capital, competing with giants like Pabst and Schlitz. It was a beer enjoyed in corner taverns, ballparks, and family gatherings, deeply woven into the city's identity. But as the industry evolved, so did the competition. The 1950s brought mergers, corporate reshuffling, and changing consumer preferences. Blatz struggled to keep up, and over time, its influence faded. Eventually, the brand was absorbed into larger beer conglomerates, losing the prominence it once had. What was the most memorable beer commercial you've ever seen? Ballantine India Pale Ale, Ortlieb's Beer, Wiedemann Beer, Other. Please leave your answer in the comments below. National Premium. Brewed by the National Brewing Company, National Premium was the more refined cousin of the beloved National Bohemian, or Natty Boh. While Natty Boh was the working-class favorite, National Premium positioned itself as a step up, offering a smooth, quality beer for those looking for something with a little more polish. National Premium's connection to Maryland was undeniable. The beer was as much a part of the state's identity as its famous crab cakes and historic landmarks. It became the drink of choice for generations of Marylanders, celebrated for its smoothness and consistent quality. Whether it was enjoyed at an Orioles game or a weekend cookout, National Premium was a go-to companion. But as larger national brewing companies began to dominate the market, National Premium found it increasingly difficult to compete. By the late 20th century, the beer was largely forgotten, fading from the scene as the industry consolidated. However, its legacy lives on. In 2011, Pabst Brewing Company revived the brand, bringing National Premium back to the market as a nod to Maryland's rich beer history. Burger Beer. Founded in 1890, this hometown brew quickly earned a special place in the hearts of locals. Known for its smooth, mellow flavor, Burger Beer wasn't trying to be anything extravagant. It was simply a reliable, easy-drinking beer made for everyday enjoyment. Whether it was shared among friends at a local bar or enjoyed during a family gathering, Burger Beer embodied the spirit of the working-class community. What made Burger Beer even more remarkable was its resilience. During Prohibition, when most breweries were forced to close their doors, Burger Beer found a way to survive. It was a testament to the loyalty of its drinkers and the strength of the brand. The beer may have faced challenges, but its place in Cincinnati's heart remained secure. As the beer industry evolved and larger breweries began to dominate, Burger Beer slowly faded from the scene. Yet, it never truly disappeared. The brand, which still resonates with those who remember it, was revived in recent years, bringing back the nostalgic taste of a local favorite. Do you think any of these long-lost brands could make a successful comeback today? Why or why not? Lucky Lager. Founded in California in the 1930s, Lucky Lager stood out for more than just its crisp, refreshing taste. It became a West Coast favorite thanks to a clever marketing gimmick, rebus puzzles hidden under its bottle caps. Every time a drinker cracked open a Lucky Lager, they were greeted with a playful challenge to solve, adding an extra layer of fun to the beer-drinking experience. These puzzles quickly became iconic, turning the beer into a conversation starter and making it as much about the mystery under the cap as the lager itself. For decades, Lucky Lager enjoyed a loyal following. It was the go-to beer for many, offering a simple, straightforward taste that paired perfectly with the puzzles. The fun, interactive element of the brand set it apart from the competition and made it a beloved part of beer culture, especially on the West Coast. Its loyal fans cherished not only the flavor, but also the tradition of solving the rebus after each bottle. However, as the beer market became more competitive and larger national brands took over, Lucky Lager began to fade. The rebus puzzles couldn't save it, and by the 1970s, the brand disappeared from shelves. Despite its decline, the memory of Lucky Lager endures. For those who remember, it wasn't just a beer. It was a nostalgic part of social gatherings and a symbol of a time when beer offered a little extra challenge, right under the cap. Hamm's Beer. Hamm's Beer wasn't just a beverage, it was an experience, and much of that charm came from its iconic mascot, the Hamm's Bear. This lovable, animated character captured hearts across the country, often seen frolicking in the snow or dancing to the catchy tune, "From the Land of Sky Blue Waters." The jingle became a national sensation, symbolizing the carefree spirit that Hamm's embodied. Founded in 1865 in St. Paul, Minnesota, Hamm's quickly rose to fame, offering a smooth, easy-drinking lager that appealed to a wide range of beer drinkers. The brand wasn't about complexity. It was about enjoying a simple, refreshing beer that you could crack open after a long day. The Hamm's Bear, with its whimsical personality, was the perfect representation of the brand. Fun, approachable, and designed to bring people together. As Hamm's grew throughout the 20th century, It became a household name, not just for its taste, but for the joy it represented. By the 1970s, Hamm's had expanded its reach, becoming one of the most recognized beer brands in America. However, as the craft beer movement took hold and larger national brands began dominating the market, Hamm's found itself squeezed out. Despite this, the legacy of Hamm's still lingers, particularly for those who remember the bear's playful antics. While Hamm's may not be the powerhouse it once was, the possibility of a comeback isn't out of the question. If nostalgia has anything to say, the Hamm's bear could certainly return, bringing a wave of fond memories and refreshing beer moments back to life. Olympia Beer. Olympia Beer, with its famous slogan, "It's the water," became a symbol of the Pacific Northwest. Founded in 1896 in Tumwater, Washington, Olympia quickly grew into a regional favorite thanks to its clean, crisp taste derived from the pure artesian water of the region. The slogan wasn't just marketing, it was a reflection of the beer's roots, highlighting the natural purity that defined its flavor. For many, drinking Olympia was more than just quenching thirst. It was about connecting to the land and the history of the area. Olympia's reputation spread far beyond Tumwater, becoming a regional powerhouse in the beer world. It was the beer of choice for many in the Pacific Northwest, especially known for its smoothness and refreshing qualities. The brewery's close ties to the community were a testament to the beer's place in local culture, often seen at gatherings and shared moments. However, as the brewing industry consolidated in the mid-20th century, Olympia struggled to maintain its foothold. Bigger, more powerful breweries began to dominate, and Olympia could not keep up. Despite attempts to stay relevant, the brewery eventually closed its doors, and the iconic brand faded from the national stage. Though it survived for a time under different ownership, Olympia's status as an iconic beer gradually slipped away. In 2020, Pabst Brewing Company announced the discontinuation of the Olympia brand, marking the end of an era. Hudepohl Beer. Founded in 1885, Hudepohl quickly became a beloved local brand, known for its rich, full-bodied flavor that became synonymous with the city's beer culture. It wasn't just about drinking. Hudepohl was an experience, often enjoyed alongside the excitement of a Cincinnati Reds game, where the famous Hudepohl cheer echoed through the stadium. For many in the city, it wasn't a ball game without a cold Hudepohl in hand. Despite the challenges of the times, including prohibition, Hudepohl persevered. During those dry years, the brewery found a way to stay afloat by producing soda and malt products, ensuring its place in the community's heart, even when beer wasn't on the menu. Hudepohl's resilience reflected the spirit of Cincinnati, tough, enduring, and proud. However, as the brewing industry began to consolidate in the mid-20th century, Hudepohl faced tougher competition from larger national breweries. With changes in ownership and the rise of mass-market beers, Hudepohl eventually faded from the scene. Yet, its legacy as a local favorite remains strong. Today, Hudepohl is a cherished part of Cincinnati's beer history, and the brand is still brewed by the Hudepohl Brewing Company, keeping that nostalgic taste alive for a new generation of fans. Did any of these classic kitchen items stir up old memories for you? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this trip down memory lane makes you feel happy, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more nostalgic gems from the good old days. Thanks for watching.